What's up, Cerebral Football fans? My name is Steven Hyder. This is Gate City Sports Channel. And today, we're going to talk about Jeff Hafley. We're going to talk about his defense. I'm going to give you some insights of what I know from his time at Boston College, being that I'm here in ACC country. And I'm going to give you a history lesson, guys. You're going to learn a ton today about defensive formations, the expansion of the league, how some of these fronts came into play, and kind of where all this stuff comes from, guys. All right. Origins of the story, guys. You got to go back to the turn of the century. You're talking late 1890s into the early 1900s, right? You get essentially a lot of 7-down linemen by the time we get into the 20th century, the early 20th century, right? The modern beginnings of football. And when you get into 7-down linemen, guys, what you're talking about, simply put, is like your front seven, right? Back in the day, you had 7 guys kind of up on the line of scrimmage. But today, you normally have 4, 5. Sometimes you'll see some of these 60 fronts that get used at times. But it just basically means the combination of your linebackers and your defensive linemen forming the front seven of your defense. Some of the original things that you'll hear about when it comes to the original defensive line structure of the NFL, you'll hear things like the 7 box D, which was the 7-2-2 defense. Something you see a lot run even in like Pop Warner ball. When you're really young, you play a lot of either 60 front or 70 front defenses. I know for us, we played a lot of 60 front. And then, like, if we really, if you had a team that was pretty weak in run defense, you might go into a 70 front. That's the early stuff, right? Don't confuse this term, guys. A 7 diamond front, which was a 7-1-2-1. So you have 2 safeties, essentially, guys. When you go to the 7 diamond, that's different from like Jim Schwartz's diamond front. We're going to get into that stuff a little bit later, all right? So the early origins, you get these 7-man fronts. This stuff kind of continues, guys, all the way until you get to the 1930s and you get an expansion in the running game, which leads you into your 60 fronts, right? That's the Steve Belichick stuff. Steve Belichick would define it by the way that they played their linebackers in terms of being inside, outside, how they structured them to be in terms of, a 62 front versus different types of styles of fronts, guys, within the 60 front, where you're trying to widen and be able to play the pass while still not giving up the edges in the run game. Guys, that's going to continue on. That 60 front stuff continues on through into the 1950s. The 1950s are really kind of like one of the golden ages of football for a lot of reasons, right? I mean, you got, Greasy Earl here in Philadelphia running the Eagles team here. So you have, Earl Greasy Neal out there coaching. You got, Vince Lombardi's going to come in by the late 50s. You got Tom Landry's out there with I think the Giants at the time. Like you have a lot of innovation that's happening in the 1950s, especially like defensively, because the offense had been, adapting, had been changing, had been doing some things throughout the course of the 20th century, but the defense kind of was lagging behind. And that's where we start to get like the staples of some of the modern things that we see in the NFL. To begin with, Steve Belichick, Steve Owens, these are the guys that come up with like the 61 umbrellas, the 62 fronts, all those 6-man fronts, 1950s. You can see them a little bit in the 30s as well, but 1950s is when they're really popularized. And off of those 60 fronts is when you start to get the first bases of your 50 fronts. Your 5-2 Eagle, which was, Earl Greasy Neal's front with the Eagles, to the 52 Oklahoma, which is Bud Wilkinson's. He was the head coach at the time at Oklahoma University. I don't think it was Oklahoma State. I'm pretty sure it was Oklahoma University. 52 Oklahoma is still used today in terminologies for odd fronts, guys. The 34 Oklahoma means you got a nose tackle and 2-5 techniques and you're 2-gapping. That's your Oklahoma, right? From the 50 fronts, guys, you get into the Bum Phillips era. This all is really taking place in Texas, to be quite honest. Texas was kind of the growth of a lot of these defensive concepts. Bum Phillips, who's Wade Phillips' father, kind of comes up with the modern adaptation of what we call the 34 defense. Bum Phillips brings that to the NFL later on in like the 80s. And then you got the adaptation of what becomes the 43 defense, which also kind of happens around this time frame, which comes from Tom Landry, who takes it from the 60 fronts. And then Tom Landry turns it into the 4-3 inside, outside, that just pertains to gap assignment, guys, for your inside defensive tackles. So the defensive tackles there would either be A gapping, so that would be inside, or B gapping, which would be outside. And they were also off the line of scrimmage, which then Tom Landry innovates further when he gets a guy like Bob Lilly in the 1970s. And then you get that, this new flex 43. So the flex 43 just means the weak side defensive tackle was normally off the line of scrimmage a yard or two. Like he wasn't right up on the line of scrimmage, and it makes it hard for you to know if they're A gapping or B gapping. That went on until teams kind of figured it out, guys, and they started throwing anytime they would see that flex. anytime they would see that, weak side, because it just basically takes them out of being a pass rusher. So that would basically allow them to go into passing sets. That happens and innovates the 43. In the 70s, you're going to get the tilt, the 4-3 tilt, or the, what do they used to call the tilt? Oh, the stunt, the 4-3 stunt or the 4-3 tilt. That's the steel curtain defense. That's your Steelers in the 1970s, guys. It's when you got a nose tackle and you tilt them, essentially, right? So that's where they're taking advantage of Joe Green. You can see kind of Bob Lee with the Cowboys creates the flex. Joe Green with the Steelers, that kind of creates them going into that tilt, or that, that essentially a stunting front where you can stunt off of things. And then you go past that, guys, you get to the next iteration of the story, which is going to bring us into kind of tying in the Green Bay coaching staff. All right. So if you followed me at this point, guys, we're in the 1980s, and you got things like Buddy Ryan's 46, which is a 4-4 front, right? You got things such as Tom Landry's 43 defense. You got Bum Phillips 34 defenses. You're getting the modern, NFL stuff is kind of coming into play by the time we're hitting the 1980s. 1970s was a big expansion as well, along with the 50s. All right. I hate to say this, guys, because I hate talking about the Dallas Cowboys, but in order to tell the story, you have to know where the coaching tree of Jeff Hafley is coming from, and you have to understand the origins of what happened when Jerry Jones took over the Cowboys and Tom Landry was essentially booted from that organization, because you have a philosophical change defensively while still keeping the 43. Okay. That philosophical change is they bring in Jimmy Johnson, who brings in the Miami 43, the 4-3 Miami guys, which has a lot to do with using quicker, speedier linebackers, quicker, more agile defensive linemen. Everything I'm going to tell you today, there's a couple of things that define what a 4-3 Miami is. Okay. The Miami 43 defense, the 43 front, is an even front that uses one gap. Okay. So single gap. You're not reading. You read on your way to the quarterback, essentially, guys. It's an over front meaning that your nose tackle is to the weak side. Your 3 tech is normally going to play to the strong side. That's going to be an over front. And then you're trying to generate upfield pressure with your defensive line. Okay, that is the 43 Miami. That is where Jeff Hafley's coaching comes from. It's rooted in this. It is the old Jimmy Johnson, kind of front. And to be fair, a lot of guys use this. Jim Schwartz is a disciple, essentially, of the 4-3 Miami. I mean, his fronts are kind of built similarly. You can go back. I mean, a lot of people are, guys. And it kind of goes into his tree here, Jeff Hafley. Dave Wannstedt was the coach down in Pittsburgh. Dave Wannstedt used to be the defensive coordinator for Jimmy Johnson and Jimmy Johnson's right-hand man inside of Dallas. Eventually goes on and gets his job. I think Wannstedt coached, like the Bears, and then I think he coached Miami. He was a washout as a head coach, guys. But, I mean, was always respected, always a really well-liked guy in NFL circles. A great mind. I don't know how, I don't know if the scheme stuff was really Wannstedt as much as it was Jimmy Johnson. Wannstedt did call plays in Dallas at times, but it was always Jimmy Johnson's playbook. It was always Jimmy Johnson's scheme, and Jimmy Johnson would take over play calling when it mattered, guys. So we got to keep that in mind. The reason you should know this is Dave Wannstedt being the right-hand man of Jimmy Johnson. When he gets to Pittsburgh, he brings in a young Jersey native and Jeff Hafley. Jersey, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, not Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania native and Jeff Hafley. Jeff Hafley eventually becomes a secondary coach. And then after leaving Dave Wannstedt, he ends up with Greg Schiano at Rutgers, and then follows him to Tampa Bay. And then he ends up working with Mike Patine in Cleveland. So Jeff Hafley is well rooted in this Jimmy Johnson 4-3 Miami stuff. And that's what you're going to see, guys. You're going to see essentially an even front. That's one gapping that is going to, be an over front that is going to try to create upfield penetration. Think Jim Johnson, right? The guys that love to play in Jim Johnson's system, the Fletcher Cox and all those guys that love to just get to the quarterback. Those dudes are going to like the Jeff Hafley system. That's what he did inside of Boston College as well. And I will give him a little credit here, Jeff Hafley, because he carried on the tradition of not only being favorable towards defensive linemen, but Jeff Hafley did a really, really good job at Boston College of still keeping that kind of a linebacker school. Like they do a pretty good job of taking these lower tier prospects at Boston College and finding a way of turning them into pretty serviceable linebackers. I will say that you're going to see some concepts here that will make some sense depending on like where it comes from. So, you look at the Greg Schiano and you look at like the Jim Schwartz aspect of things, and you'll get those diamond fronts. That's what I was telling you. Like Don't confuse the 7 diamond with the diamond front. The diamond front is like when you take you take your center and draw one side of the line and draw the other side of the line. And what you're trying to do is create a way of getting one man on each player, right? So the Eagles would do this thing where they would put Fletcher Cox at the nose, right? Then you have Brandon Graham over top of one of the guards, and then you would have essentially Derek Barnett on the outside as the edge rusher. And then on the opposite side, they would bring in a linebacker. They would bring in like a Malcolm Jenkins as a safety on the opposite side, and then they would overhang their other edge all the way outside. He would be overhang on the outside, right? Which creates these one-on-one matchups. I mean, it was 6 across, but technically anytime they did that, they would bring like a Nate Gary or someone like that, and he's just quarterback spying. But it makes you commit. It makes you commit 5 guys to the blocking scheme so you get one-on-one matchups. That's what you're going to see from this type of system. It's going to be stuff like that. Mike Patine, young man that coached for Cleveland for a while and everything. He's another guy, same thing, even, one gap, over fronts, upfield pressure, but just even in 40 front, you're going to get this, guys. So just like we saw from Vic Fangio, where we broke down like, hey, man, you're going to see some leakers, right? You're going to see creepers, the creeper concept. Well, I call them leakers, but creepers is what Vic calls them, the creeper concept, right? To where then he brings a replacement blitz. Well, Patine did that too in Cleveland, guys. He would drop a defensive tackle, and this was pretty much his cover 3 skate. It's called cover 3 skates, where he would drop a defensive tackle out there in coverage, guys, and then he would bring someone from the secondary normally to replace him on a 4-man, like a replacement kind of pressure. Robert Saleh, this young man, Jeff Hafley's worked for Robert Saleh before. It's an attacking 43 scheme. I would say it's a little different from like the Todd Bowles and the Greg Williams. It's not quite the same philosophically as those guys, but everyone kind of has their roots if they're playing in the overfront in Jimmy Johnson's setup. Jimmy Johnson's the one who created this, right? That's basically what we're looking at, guys. We're going to be looking at an attacking 43 front to where on occasion you might see them try to do some things where they try to bring a replacement blitz, where they might drop a defensive tackle out there. They might bring a linebacker up on the line of scrimmage and make it look like, give you like a diamond front where they're making it look like you're going to get like 6-man, like a blitz or a 5-man pressure. But really what they want you to do is overcommit to a one-on-one blocking scheme. They're going to quarterback spy you, and they're probably going to drop somebody to kind of, pick up and have someone in coverage to confuse you. Basically, confuse your eyes, if you will. Jeff Hafley was pretty good at Boston College, guys. It's really hard to project these dudes now in the league. I don't know how good he's going to be in the NFL, dude. I mean, there's just no way of telling that, guys, until he's there. He's got, some experience in the league. Like I said, guys, he coached in Tampa Bay. He coached in Cleveland. He coached with the 49ers before returning back to college again to coach at Boston College. Started off at like Albany or some other place, guys. I don't know his roots way back then. I don't know the coaching staff back then. I know it from when he got to Pittsburgh, was working underneath Dave Wannstedt, was coaching in the secondary. Then he got over to Rutgers, and he basically followed Greg Schiano over there, and then followed Greg Schiano to Tampa Bay, and then kind of, led him into this course of, you could see clearly where that coaching tree is coming from. This is going to be interesting because it leaves you to a thought process of trying to judge how much pressure they're going to bring, right? Jim Schwartz was always a little weird with pressure. There were some times where Jim Schwartz would really bring pressure, and there was other times where Jim Schwartz would not. Jim Schwartz was kind of similar to a lot of other guys we've had in Philadelphia, to where I think if Jim Schwartz felt he had a young quarterback and he felt like he could blitz him, man, he blitzed the crap out of you. Jim Schwartz would bring it if he felt that he had a young quarterback out there. Okay. I don't know what we're going to see. I would suspect that if they're watching tape from last year, Jeff Hafley might bring a more pressure-oriented defense, concepts to this game that maybe they don't see realized throughout the entirety of the season. They'll probably be a little bit more passive than what they've been previously. They were a top 10 team in terms of bringing the blitz last season, guys. So, I mean, this is going to be a little bit of a change in the guard with Jeff Hafley, but I would still suspect you're going to see some of these replacement blitzes and things like that coming in this game. I wouldn't be shocked if you see them try to, in third downs, try to use some of those like a diamond front, the things we saw underneath Jim Schwartz and those guys. I wouldn't be shocked by that, guys. It wouldn't shock me at all if we see that kind of game plan get rolled out here with Jeff Hafley. Like I said, guys, it's rooted in the Miami 43. If you want to read up and learn about the Miami 43, you can go back and learn about those 1990 Dallas, Cowboy defenses. Basically the way that they would use these things for pressure and blitz. They do use undersized players, and that's something to speak to. Like, most of these things are adaptations to the league and the rules in the league. I don't know how well this fits in the narrative to the adaptation of the rules in the league, to be quite honest. With that said, the other side of this is the adaptation to the players you have on your roster. And I will say Green Bay has a lot of smaller, faster linebackers. Quay Walker, right? I think they just drafted Edgerrin Cooper. These aren't huge linebackers, not like we are used to in the 90s and early 2000s, guys. They're not huge linebackers, but they're fast, right? They're really fast. These are guys that can really move. They can get sideline to sideline. You know, they're more instinctive than they are physical per se. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how this defense kind of comes out here and defends Jalen Hurts, because this is, Philly's an interesting matchup for Green Bay in this particular type of system. What Jalen Hurts can do through the RPO game, they're going to try to man up at times, guys. You're going to see some man coverage out there. They're going to try to man up on AJ Brown. So, I mean, I'm wondering what the game plan is going to be there, because trying to man up on AJ Brown normally does not go well. Like, AJ lives for man coverage, especially if they're going to put a 3-by-1 stacked on one side and he's the one isolation on the other side, and they're going to give him man coverage. Whew. That's a tough assignment for anybody. That's a tough assignment for anybody in this league. He's not easy to cover like that, guys. The guy's strong. He's sudden. He's a really good route runner. He's got really good hip fluidity, especially for a dude that's like 225 pounds. AJ Brown does. Like, that's a tough assignment. Then you got the other side where you're probably going to see a lot of three by. Could be stacked to where they're stacking them and they're getting free releases for, Devontae Smith. They're getting free releases, for anyone really. It could be Britton Covey. It could be Jahan Dotson. It could be whoever, if they do one of the call-ups on the practice squad and they bring like a Paris Campbell up, they're going to have opportunities to get free releases, guys, especially if they're trying to man up. I mean, it's going to be an interesting look, because they are single high safety in their coverage. You're going to see a lot of single high safety. Everyone plays everything. So, I mean, of course, you're going to see some quarters concepts from time to time. I would bet if the Eagles are just absolutely cooking them in man coverage, it'd be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see if they start reverting back to maybe more zone cover 3, falling maybe even back into some quarters. Because it's, like I said, guys, it's really, really tough, man. It's really, really tough to man up on AJ Brown. That's a tough assignment, man. I don't care who you are. You're going to have a rough day out there if you got to play man coverage without help over the top, especially. So, I mean, look, it's kind of crazy when you look at everything that's going on there in terms of like how they're going to play things, right? I mean, they're a cover 3, cover 6, cover 1 type, defense. Okay. They will use some design. They will use robber. They will use cover 1 with robber, guys. You got to be careful with the robber concepts with them. They will use them. I got a feeling it's the first week of the NFL season, so you do have to temper expectations, of course. But I do feel like there is a real possibility for a really, really high output offensive game here. Because I just think that the Philadelphia Eagles, in terms of what we can offer offensively, is just a really bad matchup for Jeff Hafley in this system. Now, luckily for them, they got their own offense that can really put up points. They got an offense that's pretty good as well, and they can maybe hang in there, and then you're just, you're trying to steal a possession, basically, is all you're looking for to win the game. And that's the other side of this that, we talked about yesterday. With that said, I definitely expect that, can never tell. Like I said, guys, early season jitters, first game of the week, sometimes things don't go the way that you think they'll go. The first week is probably not the greatest indicator of where teams are going to be by week 8 or 9. But with that said, I do think this is a good matchup, despite the fact that they're playing in freaking Brazil for a home game, which is wild in itself. But I do think this is a pretty good matchup, guys. I think this is a good matchup for the Philadelphia Eagles offense. I think this is going to present a lot of problems, man. How do you beat this type of offense? Motion, stack sets, guys who can beat man coverage. That's how you beat it. Between the new system that's coming in here in Philadelphia and the fact that it does rely on motion, it does rely on stack sets. It will play a lot of 3-by-1 to really put you in trouble. It's going to be interesting, guys. I got high hopes that this is going to go our way. This is going to offensively, we're going to see a lot here. Doesn't mean you're going to win the game. We got to still hold them defensively as well. But man, this is going to be interesting, guys. This is going to be an interesting game for the offense, because I definitely feel like, while I like Jeff Hafley and I like the things that he did at Boston College, I love aggressive 43 attacking defenses. I do. I just feel like this is a really, really tough matchup, though, man. This is a tough matchup to walk into to try to guard this particular team. I just feel like the way that you take advantage of that type of system is the way that the Eagles are structured to take advantage of you. So we'll see. I mean, I will say that if you get down to the Robert Salehs and the Mike Patines of the world, they were, even Greg Schiano, I would say, they were always running just 40 fronts. You will see them mix things up. They'll play mixed fronts, but they're going to primarily be that 43 over, guys. That's what this is. All right, guys, let's get into some comments and let's talk. What's up, Big Birds? How you doing, bro? I'm just hanging in there, man. Keisha, what's good? How are you? What's up, Eagles fan? How you doing, bro? Ian, what's up, man? How are you? Good morning. Antonio, what's up, man? Morning, bro. It is game week. There we go, Antonio. It's game week. It's going to be interesting, guys. This is a really interesting matchup. I know some people are really confident in winning this game. I think we have, I'm not going to sit here and say the Eagles aren't a good football team. I think this is a very talented team. I think this is, a matchup I would have loved to have seen a little bit later in the season. Not week one, bro. I hate this, man. I hate this as a week one matchup. Big Bird says Philly versus Green Bay going to be a dogfight in the trenches. Can't wait for a great test in week one. Rasha, good morning, Steve. How long you give them to gel? Both sides of the ball are going to have to gel a little bit. I think the defense is a little ahead because I don't think Fangio's concepts are foreign. We've been running some variation of his concepts for 3 years now. But I do think a lot of those guys should be able to gel to those concepts. A lot of the guys that we took out of the draft, a lot of those guys are, they're coming out of zone systems, to be honest, in the secondary and stuff like, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean. Those dudes, like, come on, man. Like, they're used to this. Like, they played zone concepts. Like, they'll be able to adapt to it pretty quickly, I think. Communication is going to be key defensively. That's the thing that can kill us. Is if communication's off, we're in trouble. Offensively, that's where it kind of interesting, right? Like, guys have got to be. There's going to be a little bit of a work in progress there. There's going to definitely be a little bit of work in progress. Vincent said, "What's up, Coach? Miss your daily breakdowns. I hope the baby as well. And late congratulations." Thank you, Vincent. I appreciate that, buddy. Alice said he liked the 46. Yeah, it's really the 46, just an adaptation of the 44. It's just a 44 front, honestly. Like I said early on, when people were talking about like running the tight front and stuff like that, when Vic started introducing that terminology, the systems in which I coached in, a lot of us, we use Frank Beamer's tight front, which is a 44 front. So I was like, what is, I was like trying to figure out what the heck, that's not what Fangio's talking about when he says tight. When he's talking about tight versus tough fronts, he's talking about when he plays a 50 front, 52 defense in particular, the way that, the responsibility lies for the A gap. So he's talking about backside versus front side responsibility in the A gaps. But yeah, Al, that's the way I came up, man. I came up through a 44 front. Vince said, Coach Fangio's defense is only effective when there's a stud edge rusher and a dominant nose and 3 tech. Let's give the back and less time to cover. Mac is prime example of that stud edge. Fort said Nate Gary. Yeah. There's a breakdown on the Philadelphia Eagles channel for it where it shows Nate Gary quarterback spying. It's from the Bears game in 2019 to where they're breaking down what a diamond front is. That's a pretty good watch actually, because it gives a really good example. It's like a probably 2-3 minute clip in particular to them showing you what a diamond front is. But I think it's Ike Reese. He does a really good job of breaking it down. Wealthy Mind says this show is some tough titties. Coach, keep it going. Appreciate you, bro. Boy, when AJ and Smitty be in the slot, they're getting cooked. AJ was the best wide receiver when faced with man coverage. Just saw the stat a couple of days ago. Yeah, AJ's going to cook man coverage. AJ in isolation is a problem for them. John said, good morning, brother. What a tough task for the Packers first year D coordinator. Do you think the Birds go tempo to not allow sub packages in? They might. It's hard. I don't know what the background is in terms of like Kellen Moore and how much he plays tempo, to be honest. But I mean, you could definitely use that if you feel like, okay, like we've got them misaligned in a personnel situation here, and we're just, you definitely go tempo just to kind of make it really difficult for them to defend. Trill Will, what's good, buddy? Appreciate you, man. Force said he thought last year when the Eagles struggled on offense, they should have went up tempo more often to get the momentum back. Ben said, "Good luck running man against the Eagles personnel." Yeah, I'm curious to see, Ben, if they like. You may want to do that. That may be structurally what your defense is, but you got to play by matchups too. You know what I mean, Ben? So I'm curious if they look at this matchup and go, "This ain't the game to man up. We're going to play a little bit more like cover 3, cover 9, depending on the rotation. If you're going to go weak side or strong side rotation between 3 and 9, little cover 6 if you want to do some split field stuff and give a quarters look that's really quarter half." I'm curious if we see some adaptation there because it just seems like to me as if you're really asking for it if you're trying to hang man coverage out there. Keisha said, "I agree. I was hoping for a different team for week 1." Yeah, I hate this matchup for week 1. Like this would have been a great matchup around Halloween. Like, yeah, I hate this as a week 1 matchup, man. It's not the best. Ben said, "How does our defense match against the Packers? Because Love smoked Gannon a couple of years ago in garbage time." Yeah, we talked about that yesterday. Look, he's a tough player to defend because he's got the ability when things go off schedule to really hurt you, right? I mean, he's tough when you get pressure to him and he's able to elude the pressure and they go off schedule and they're in that scramble drill. Love's a tough player to defend. I mean, we get a little taste of what it's like for defense to defend against Jalen Hurts when it comes to Jordan Love. I mean, he's a good player. It's going to depend, man. I think depending on how coverage holds up, I think guys, if you get home, you got to wrap up and tackle. You cannot let Jordan Love extend plays on you. If you're letting him extend plays and basically play backyard football, that's the kind of player that can really hurt you. When you start going off structure and you got a guy of Jordan Love's ability, look at Patrick Mahomes. You look at all Pat Mahomes like crazy highlights. A lot of those things are off structure. People think they've got him wrapped up. They think they've got the play dead, and then Pat Mahomes makes a play. I mean, it's hard to defend against players like that, man. It's an absolute pain, Ben, to defend against players that can do that to you. Easy, what's up, buddy? Says, "Yo, Gator, are you concerned about the pass rush outside of Carter and maybe Huff? I don't see anyone who is consistently reliable." I mean, I think Swift's consistently reliable, easy. I just don't think that I don't think he's like a game breaker, but I think he's a decent player. And I think if you look at quickest time to rush, Sweat normally ranks pretty highly within the NFL. He's explosive. He's a good player. He's only here for one more year though, easy. And like he's consistently up and down, right? We finally got him to a double-digit sack year in 22. Then he kind of dipped right back down again to like 6.5, 7.5 sacks. It would be nice if we can get Sweaty back up to like 8, 9 sacks. He ain't got to be double-digit to be really successful in the season, but you get him to 8 or 9 sacks, then like you're gonna have a pretty good year, especially with Bryce Huff on the opposite side. Then you got pretty much you got Jalen Carter. We just need someone. We need someone coming in from that weak side, whether it's Jordan Davis, whether it's going to be, Milton Williams, Moro Jamo, plug-in name, Thomas Booker. Don't really matter to me who the name is, easy. Just, they got to be productive. But yeah, I mean, how much can you depend upon Brandon Graham this late? I think Brandon Graham could give you some pressures. I think Brandon Graham could be used uniquely. You could definitely use him inside, things like that. You can play him outside, hand in the dirt, overhang him. How creative are they going to get? Can Nolan Smith give us anything? I'm not ready to give up on Nolan Smith easy, but to sit here and say that like I'm not concerned, it'd be a lie. I'm hopeful the young man's going to get it together. We've heard people like Lane Johnson speak pretty highly of him. I just didn't personally see a lot of it on his preseason tape. I know that we got to be a little careful. Preseason's not always the greatest indicator of where guys are, but I was hoping for more. Personally, easy. I was hoping for more for him because I think he's the key. If Nolan Smith is really out there balling, then you got, a young guy in Jelix Hunt that you're bringing up. You got something. I don't know if we're there yet. Easy. It's going to be hard to tell. We won't know until the season. What's up, James? How you doing, buddy? He says, "Good morning, Coach. Why are so many pundits against Coach Sirianni? All he has done is win since he's been coach. Your thoughts?" Uh he's bold. He's a shit talker, James. You know what I mean? Like Nick's gonna talk it. Nick's gonna talk the game to you. Like this is how he is. I don't think that rubs people the right way. You know what I mean? Like I think some people don't really enjoy that. Personally, I enjoyed playing for coaches like that. I enjoyed coaching for coaches like that. I always thought it was entertaining and fun. I think it brings an energy to the team, but it does have to be managed. To be fair, James, like there is a like an area where you got to be a little careful. You're not going too far with things. But yeah, I mean, the guy's won. I do think he, like there's a little bit of a skeptical eye towards him this season. I think the collapse, undid a lot of goodwill that the young man had. Nick had won a lot of games with Jalen. I mean, those two guys were cooking. Given the 22 season and rolling into what they did in the first half of 23, they were really cooking before that downfall. Downfall still occurred. You got to right some ships here. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see, James. I mean, I know that the owner, I know Jeffrey Lurie thinks pretty highly of him. So we'll see. We'll see. Wealthy Mind says 69 in the chat. Get them likes up, guys and gals. Appreciate y'all, man. I do think Wilson gives option from 11 personnel. In the 12 personnel, you can't audible in and out. Well, I'll tell you this. Kellen will audible from 12. He will move his tight ends around. That's one thing you'll see on his tape, man. He will move those tight ends around, even in the run game. What's up, Drew? Says, hey, Gay City, good to see you, brother. What kind of matchup problems do you see the Eagles offense giving Green Bay? Keep up the great work. Honestly, I think it's going to be predicated on the fact that everything they do from an attacking front is really, the way you counteract that type of front is, number one, they're going to play theoretically a lot of man coverage. We'll see if that works its way out, or if they say, look, man, there's no way we're going to man up on AJ like this. But stack sets, motion, a lot of eye candy defeats that kind of stuff, right? Because they don't want to think. They just want to play. They don't want to spend time thinking, right? It's the Jim Schwartz-esque type system, right? It's got its roots in like I said, Jimmy Johnson and Dave Wannstedt. It's the Miami 43 or the 4-3 Miami. With that said, they don't want, they want to be aggressive. They don't want to do a lot of thinking. And you can catch a team, to be quite honest. You can catch teams if you catch them in that state of mind, right? To where they want to be super aggressive and they don't want to give a lot of effort or a lot of thought to misdirection. They don't want to give a lot of effort, a lot of thought to, power and counters and, things like stack sets to create free releases and things like that. Like that's how you defeat it, Drew. I'm curious to see how they do. I do think this is a really good matchup for Philadelphia's offense. I do think that this is the type of offense that gives Jeff Hafley's system some problems. Now, with that said, it's still week one, and that's the problem. We got a new system being broken in. So some of the things that if we played them in week 8 or week 9, we probably could take a lot of advantage of. You do have to question if week one it's going to work that way. It's like I said, guys. I mean, week one's one of those weeks that you got to be careful because sometimes you really don't know, right? You don't know how it's going to work out in week one. I don't think week one's a great illustrator of how the season's going to go. Darlene said, your defense can't stop running defenses. Start the past a different sucks, and you want some facts. The last 7 games, you lost 6. What are you saying, Darlene? Like, you're not even making sense. Love throws almost exactly like Rodgers. I'm curious to see if the Eagles O goes more under center. Maybe PI. It's possible they do. It is possible that they do go under center a little bit more. I don't think you're not going to be a dominant under center team. It's still going to be shotgun dominant, but I will say that you did see an uptick underneath Kellen Moore, and like there is a background from Kellen Moore, especially when you look at their quarterback coach. There's more of a background there in terms of playing under center. But yeah, I mean, you probably see a slight uptick. I mean, Jalen was really among some of the one of the least, quarterbacks to go under center in the league. So I would expect that there's going to be something there, right? Wilson's blocking is the key, not having that blocking tight end on the field. You're going to hang on, guys. Sorry. You're going to lose the game by 14 points. Green Bay is going to win. We're not Dallas. We don't lose like that. I heard Clint Hurt had some very good things to say about Jordan Davis's training camp. I mean, the guy's like, he's He's incredibly talented, Ben. I mean, it's not a lack of talent here with this young man. He said, "Good morning, Coach Gorilla Gates." Sweat has had good numbers against below average tackles throughout his career, but disappears against better ones. To be fair, he's also playing left tackles. He's playing normally the better of the tackles, across the league on a snap per snap basis. Now, obviously, you get some teams that got like a Lane Johnson at right tackle. Back in the day when Tristan Wirfs was playing right tackle for Tampa, of course, those teams. But for the most part, your left tackle is going to be the better of your two tackles. Coach, I thought Nolan, they wouldn't let him show too much on the preseason games because then you'll give the opponent a chance to win those matchups. We'll see. Easy. Vic had a ton of unblocked pressures last year with the Dolphins. I think pressures will be fine. It's the middle field backers who I think are going to get targeted. Walton in the middle, you ain't going to have no touch. Bush, and it's going to be a long game, and you're going to lose. Darlene, don't disappear when we spank Green Bay and you got to sit here as a Cowboy fan knowing how much trash your organization is. Just don't disappear. That's all I'm going to say. Cornelia said, "Hey, Gates, where can Jalen improve to you from your perspective, and how are you doing?" Cornelius, it's an offensive thing. It's the totality of the offense. It's got to be better versus pressure. Schematically, from making sure that you have hot reads that make sense. We're just too vertical versus pressure at times. It just, they used to love to run that corner. It's a corner fade route, and they normally do it like Texas A&M does it out of the slot. They love to throw that to AJ Brown. It's just too vertical versus pressure. I mean, there's got to be easy answers to overloaded blitzes. Like, generally speaking, when you play quarterback, the way you're taught to defeat an overloaded blitz is see the overloaded side and replace it with the football. I even you go back to where they were running, essentially what they were doing is they were doing simulated pressure in the Minnesota game, and they would drop their backers back out in the coverage again. And even in that game, the ball that got picked off by Jalen off of a simulated pressure, right? To where you could see that they were running like a dagger and Ohio concept out there. And AJ just didn't clear the field. You could get on AJ's butt a little bit on that play because I just don't think AJ gave enough effort to clear the field for Smitty there. But with that said, it's a very vertical shot still. Like, you're still taking a very vertical shot versus what was simulated pressure, but still was a pressure look nonetheless, right? No doubt Vic will scheme rushers open here and there, but you still got to have your players win one-on-ones. There's a reason why Halley tried to trade Sweat. Their mistake will be thinking Alexander can shut down AJ. Going to get cooked on the opposite side in the middle. Yeah, it's a bad matchup for them personally, I think. Just popping in to say, what up, Gate? What's up, one above all? How you doing, buddy? Yeah, I thought that was my phone. Under center for outside zone runs and counter runs. Yeah, that makes sense. I see what you're saying. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah. Anytime you need something it takes time to set the play up for, an under center works for the timing of the play, of course. Yeah, especially within the run game. It makes sense. Ben said, "I think Jordan Davis could dominate a one-on-one so long as he's in shape, and Huff should dominate as well in the pass game." Yeah, Jordan Love's a hard player. He's a difficult player to get to the ground, to be quite honest, Ben. But to be fair, they're not the greatest pass blocking team we're going to play. Now, they got Elgton, who's their left guard, he's a dog. That dude can block, man. He's a good pass blocker, to be fair. I thought that they were rated highly at 7th overall. And I know that they say that they're terrible at run blocking. I think they're kind of like the Eagles, to where their quarterback makes up for a lot of shortcomings. And I think their offensive line, just like our offensive line at time when it came to pass protection, I thought it was a little overrated. Same thing with us, guys. I do think that we were number 1 overall in PFF in terms of pass protection last year. Negative, like not by the film I saw. I do think we get a little overrated at times there, to be quite honest. I still think we're good. I still think we're one of the best units in the league. Don't get me wrong, but I think people overhype it a little bit. I think we're a much better run blocking team, to be honest. Do you think this will be the game like 2022 when the run game dominated the Packers and Jalen went crazy? Hey, Cowgirl Fitzhouse. They better worry about Cleveland. You think Coop not licking his chops? I don't know why you're called coach because you don't know nothing about football. Darlene, be careful because I'll bring you on this channel and embarrass the shit out of you. You don't want to challenge me like that because I'll pull 22 film up here and I'll expose your ass real quick. Ben said, "You know who's kicking his licking his chops? Myles Garrett. He might get 5 sacks Sunday." Yeah. Linda said, "Darlene, you better worry about Mozzie and your old D tackles being good, and you better worry about Myles Garrett on the rookie Guyton." Yeah, no kidding. Joel said, "In your opinion, why do you believe Jalen Hurts gets so much questions about his ability to play quarterback?" I think it's because of the way he came in the league, the fact that he had that growth he had to go through, Will. And I just think that some people can't move past that rookie year, and they're still reading him as if he's that player without seeing the expansion in his game. And the fact that even in college, year upon year, you saw the growth of Jalen Hurts, you saw the maturity as a quarterback. 2020, I'll admit, in parts of 2021, there was definitely some hesitation to throw into tight windows and stuff like that. But I mean, the young man he's improved year upon year upon year. I think he's seeing coverage a lot better. And like, I think the young man it's growing in. Like, there's going to come a time to where a lot of the RPO stuff is still going to be a part of the offense, but it's going to get back down upon Will. And then it's going to get evolved into basically what Jalen Hurts can do. It's going to be centered around him in terms of his ability to throw the ball. Like they're definitely kind of moving towards that. The RPO stuff, like, there'll always be a part of the NFL, I think, now, just because, you'd be crazy not to use the athleticism of the modern quarterback today. But I definitely think you're going to see more and more of an expansion towards Jalen Hurts. Like before, the thing was like, we're best when we're around 28 to 35 throws a game, which is still pretty quarterback centered, to be fair, but you're not completely disappearing the offense, right? I think now the Eagles, more than ever, and we saw it in 22 with Jalen, they want to throw the ball quite a bit early in games, Will, and they want to run it late to seal it away. And if that leads to Jalen Hurts throwing the ball 38 to 40 times, that's what they're going to do. You paid AJ Brown 32 million a season on average. I know average isn't the truth about the contract, but that's what the AAV is. I mean, what Devontae got 25 million. You still got Dallas Goedert here, who he got a contract extension a few years ago. You know what I mean? Like, you wouldn't trade it for Jahan Dotson. Like, it's there. It's there if you look. You know what I mean? Like, I know we could say, well, they got Saquon too. I think Saquon's there to ice games away. And I know that it's never really been his role. It wasn't really his role with the Giants. He didn't really do that. Yeah, I mean, the Giants probably really weren't in a lot of positions to ice games away, to be fair, during his career. Easy said, "I was down on the linebackers, but I saw a good Eagles breakdown on Zach Bond this preseason. He's way better than I expected. By far our smartest linebacker. You can tell why he's liked by Fangio so much." Yeah, I thought he on the play where we got gashed in the Ravens game on that first run play, I actually thought he did a really good job of taking, like, it's called a sync count. It's sync power is what we called it. Easy. And you see the guard pulling through. And I thought Zach Bond did a really good job to defeat that block. I mean, he shut that down. I mean, he missed an opportunity for a tackle there, but to be fair, he did what his job was, which is he's supposed to break down that pulling guard. Avonte Maddox kind of had an opportunity back in the backfield too. It was just a poor angle. It was hard for him. Not that he took a poor angle to him. It's just like the angle was difficult to make that tackle in. Really, it was Jordan Davis who got defeated on that play easy. And then I think, because Jordan Davis got defeated, you see basically Devin White is kind of like, he's scraping over and then he gets kind of depleted. They work up to the second level and deplete him there, which causes that big run. But you saw immediately they went into the 50 fronts and that stuff got shut down. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting, man. I actually like the linebacker core. It's just a matter of, do we have anyone who can be, in the top third of the league? You got a guy that's a top third linebacker in the league. If you got that guy, then I think you got something pretty special. Daryl said NFL set up Eagles 23 to fail, murderers row, including Bills, the Chiefs, the Dolphins, followed by San Fran and Dallas coming off buys. Eagles got beat up and could not recover. Yeah. What's up, Sean? How you doing, bro? Jalen throws quite well on the run. Use it more. Hey, Darlene, if you do vanish after Friday while you were gone, can you learn to type in English? Did you get your GED yet? I don't want to. I don't want to make fun of no one's education, one above all, but yes, I've had a hard time reading some of her sentences as well. Darlene, get lost and go to Cowboys Channel losers for 30 years. Yeah, me too. Easy. Yeah, me too. Easy, but it's still a decent weakness along with the top young / old corners. Yeah, I'm not going to disappear if we don't win any. Dallas Cowboys don't win this, but I think we're going to win. And how old are you, Darlene? Are you like 13? I can't. No one can understand what you say, bro, when you type. Good Lord. Can anyone read that dribble above me? Hey, Gate, how does the Packers fare against the run? Do you think Barkley has a big game? That's going to be a tough thing to judge right now, Eric, just because I'm not too sure where they're at in terms of their ability to stop the run, right? I mean, before they were 34 front traditionally to where they would overhang and play 50 if they needed to get big and stop the run. They're going to do things a little differently now coming out of that 40 front. So, I mean, there's probably going to be a chance for the Eagles to really capitalize here. Now, what I think they'll probably do in terms of the RPO game stuff is they'll probably follow some of the Tampa Bay model of walking down 8 in the box and making it tougher, right? Trying to force you in and then dropping back into coverage. That's probably what I would guess. The Eagles are smart that don't roll into the RPOs. Like, let them bring 8 in the box. Let them play that for a couple downs. And then you've got them. That's when you can play action or hit them with RPO. But yeah, I mean, we'll see. Jordan Davis is overrated. You're going to Miss Cox. Darlene can't get enough of Eagles content. It's the closest she can get to winning to a winning organization. Makes sense. Cameron said we're beating Green Bay. I hope Dallas extends that through when, who knows, basically. You can't get past the divisional round to save his life. Typical Cowboys fan. All right, Darlene, I can't read your sentences. You're going to have to like either shorten your sentences or learn proper grammar, man. It's difficult to read your sentences. I'm sorry, Darlene. I mean, this is just a really huge run on sentence here. You running back you had last year. Come on, bro. Yeah, Green Bay is either going to be a shootout or a blowout, depending on how our defense performs. Because I don't see how Green Bay beats us. If they go man, they get cooked by AJ and Devontae zone. They will get run on all over. Yeah, I think it's a tough matchup for them, Ben. I really do defensively. Now it's going to be like I said. If you get into an offensive shootout, then you're just looking to steal a possession, right? As it comes down to stealing a possession or two. If you can steal a possession or two, you can walk out of a game in a shootout. Fangio's got to make sure that doesn't happen. I don't think that you're going to completely shut down Green Bay's offense. It's pretty good. But like I was saying yesterday, if you can win 4 out of 5 possessions, okay, and you can hold Green Bay to around, 24 points or less, then yeah, you got a real shot at winning this. Like, with all the weapons on offense, we better not see a 3 and out this season. Left out loud, go Birds. Get ready. Get ready. Because you know how it goes, real. You know how it goes, man. At some point, we're going to get it. That's Darlene's son hacking her account. Hey, what do you think about Mekhi Becton? Big guy, strong, going to be a force in the run game. I'm, a little concerned of him playing guard. I do think it's a little different when you get into game situations. With that said, I mean, dude, it's just hard. I mean, a dude that's like 6'7", 6'8", 350 plus. Those dudes are hard to move, man. It's hard to win those matchups. Like that's a big guy. Like, him and Jordan Mailata, That's just two dudes that can really put you on your tail. Not to mention you got Landon Dickerson who and got that country strength there, Mister Overalls himself. I mean that line is it's stout. We got a pretty stout line, and then you got two really athletically gifted guys in Cam Jurgens and Lane Johnson. So yeah, it's crazy. It literally is. I'm really excited to see Mitchell get some good work against the Packers receivers. I think both teams are going to shorten this game and get back home. Yeah, I mean, there's a chance of that. There's a chance that because it's where it's being played, that they just everyone wants to get this game over with and get it in the rearview mirror. Possible. Vincent said, "Coach, reviewing last year, do you think the Eagles would have beat the Giants, Seahawks, and Cardinals if they left Desai defensive coordinator?" I think you stood a better chance, Vincent. I think we would have stood a better chance, to be quite honest. I think the Desai move was a mistake. I do. I generally think that was like a big mistake to make there. I was never really a big fan of when we made the original signing, just because, Matt Patricia, the conflict they had there with Darius Slay. I know Darius Slay said that bygones are bygones. He's not, he's going to move on about that. But it's just like, man, like the way that dude lost the locker room in Detroit, why are you bringing that dude into your locker room? I didn't understand that move. That was one of the things, like, I really respect Nick in a lot of ways. I didn't respect that move. Not that I don't respect Nick. I didn't like that move. I thought that was a really stupid move to be made by a coach who, like, Nick, come on, bro. I know you got some clout. I know you're trying to keep dudes in the game. I know you think the guy's got a brilliant NFL mind. He can't relate to players. That's a problem. Like, the dude is just not relatable to players. That's an issue. Cameron said, Gate, what's your thoughts on Cam Jurgens? Do you believe in him? I think he's going to be great. Yeah, I think he's very athletic. I think he's going to be a force in the running game. I think he still has some work to do in his pass sets, to be quite honest, pass protection. We'll see. I mean, I think the young man's got a chance to be a really good center here. It's just tough. Like, he's following Jason Kelsey. I guess it's a tough assignment. Like, he's always going to get compared to Jason Kelsey, and it's a tough thing to have happen to you. But I mean, I do think this guy's a good player. Hey, we don't have any beef with you, Eagles. We beat up on the Cowboys, and our beef is with the 49ers, just like y'all. Laugh out loud. This is pitiful. It's like animal abuse. Thoughts on the stadium field presentation? I don't want any injuries. It's tough to say. I mean, I know the NFL has their own people that are going to prepare the field down there. I don't know, like I don't know exactly too much about the field conditions they're going to be playing on. I know that it's normally a soccer stadium, if I'm not mistaken, Jody. Um, like I said, I don't love I don't love these international games. I know they're trying to draw in more interest to the NFL. I just number one, like, you got season ticket holders. This takes away from what they're paying essentially. They say, well, you can take the trip down to Brazil, and Brazil's a beautiful place. I've been there myself. And we got people in our community, Jody, to be honest here, that live in Brazil. And I know they're really excited for this game, but that's an unknown, Jody. I don't know. I don't know how it's going to be in terms of the field conditions out there. It's bad enough that, they talked about the wildfires and stuff that are happening down there. And the fact that, not that it's that close to the city, but they talk about air quality being an issue. Yeah, I mean, week one, an international game. I'm just hoping, hoping for a win as an Eagle fan. I know you said you're a Green Bay fan. I'm hoping for a win, but I'm also hoping to get out of there relatively healthy and not have any kind of like serious injury that can really change the trajectory of your season. That'd be an issue. Number one priority for the defense is to stop Josh Jacobs. Yeah, he's a good playmaker. Josh Jacobs, it's going to be interesting to see what they do there. Josh Jacobs is a pretty decent receiving back as well. Good running back. He's got some explosion. He's had some tough moments in his career with the injury stuff here and there. I thought Aaron Jones was really good for them down the stretch, Cameron. I'm not going to lie. I thought Aaron Jones might have been the best player in the league during the back half of the season. Like, I thought Aaron Jones played pretty dang well, to be quite honest. I know saying best player in the league is probably a little bit of a stretch, but he was up there. He was one of the better ones, man. Like, I thought he was going to be better than that. I thought he would get paid better than that, is what I should say. Well, we played against your running back and Fish your OC, so this will be fun. Well, you know, OC's been around for a while. Dang, I'm not going to read that, but I saw it. That's funny. Seems Eagles O-line gave up quite some pressures during camp against Fangio and the Patriots. I wonder if that has to do with missing Kelsey's protections. Yeah, Fangio's also just he's old. He's been in the game for a long time. Easy. I just think he's really talented at breaking down your protections. You know what I mean? I definitely think he's got a knack for doing those type of things. Hang on, man. This dog is about to go crazy, guys. Give me 1 minute. I apologize, guys. I heard a noise outside and it's about to go crazy. I mean, we'll have to see. I mean, you know, some of that's being devolved into Jalen's hands. You know, Jalen's going to have more autonomy over those adjustments and being able to set the protection. So, I mean, I expect there to be like a little bit of a learning curve here because, you know, it's the first time he's really getting tasked truly with doing that. But I mean, I think the young man has got the work ethic. I think he's plenty smart enough. I think he's come from a lot of solid organizations, you know, a lot of solid schemes. He's had a lot of solid coaching. So, I mean, I think the young man, you know, I think he'll be okay. Mike says, stout line. I see what you did there. Just got on here. Do you think our defense can stop Josh Jacobs? Also, how well do you think Mitchell will do versus the Packers? Look, Mitchell's going to be challenged, man. The Packers, to their credit, they got 3 guys who are really freaking good from the slot. I think I wrote down some stuff from them from yesterday, guys. Let me see. So Dontavian Wicks, Jaden Reed, and Christian Watson all ranked in the top 25 in terms of yards per route run out of the slot. So, I mean, you know, they can move their guys all across the field, apparently. You get what I'm saying here? And I know they don't have like, I'm trying to be careful because I do see a lot of comments sometimes that come in on the videos to where, you know, people maybe underestimate some guys. They don't have a dog. They don't have an A.J. Brown. Don't have a Devontae Smith level receiver on their team. Well, what they got are 3 really good players. 4 really. Because I think Romeo Dobbs should be included in that. Christian Watson, Romeo Dobbs, Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks. I don't know where Bo Melton is in terms, I don't know enough about him to really grade or rate him. But those 4 guys are pretty good. You know, they're not A.J. Brown. They're not Devontae Smith level, but pretty good. That's a pretty solid receiving core. Yeah, it's a very solid receiving core, guys. And they had a lot of production coming out of the slot. So I do think that us being able to get a guy like Quinyon Mitchell, who's that kind of athlete, I think that's pretty big. I think that's something that's not being talked about a lot. The weather too. Mulata, Dickerson, Cam, and Becton are all better as run blockers. It's the pass I worry about. Yeah, I know we were graded as the number 1, you know, pass, you know, pro team in the NFL by PFF. I got to be honest. I think they're overrating us a little bit. I still think we're one of the best units in the league, no doubt about it. But I do think that they're overrating us a little bit, to be quite honest. Now, I think easy, we're exceptional easy in terms of pass pro is the fact that on third downs, the Eagles don't need to give a lot of help. They don't need to have a lot of 7-man protections. They don't need to go max protection a whole lot, right? We're able to basically depend upon, you know, essentially having Lane Johnson on your right side, Jordan Mulatto on your left side, and letting those guys do what they do, right? But I do think we are susceptible sometimes to the blitz. I really do. I think we've failed to pass off responsibility correctly. I think we failed to slide the line the right way a couple of times. Like there were some things from last year where I was like, yeah, they're overrating us a little bit in terms of pass protection. JC said Green Bay is talking about playing physical this season, both sides of the ball, 3 really good tight ends. Back 7 has to tackle well and get turnovers. What's up? I'm awake. How you doing, bro? Jason, what's good, man? How are you, buddy? Kyron, what's good, man? He says this will come down to the Eagles D. They couldn't stop a water leak by the end of the season last year. Sorry, man. Let me gain my composure. All right. I think we will come out on top if we hold Green Bay to less than 24 points. Yeah, I wasn't happy with the Matt Patricia thing either, man. The one thing I'll say about Desai, I'm sure, Kyron, that part of this is Desai lost the locker room. I don't see why you would replace him unless he lost the locker room, because even Gannon had trouble winning the locker room his first season, but he got it under control and he did win it. With that said, I thought Desai did a really good job adjusting in the second half of games, and he made the right decisions to win games. I mean, I thought they overreacted to a single loss, to be quite honest. But yeah, I mean, you're right. Towards the end of the season, our defense was absolutely terrible. We'll know a lot more about the team and the coaches after Green Bay, hopefully with a win under our belts. Yeah, I mean, look, this is one of those games to where you got to be at least competitive. You got to show that you can play. We got to show that we've resolved a lot of those things last year. I think our team is, a little bit more talented than what we see from Green Bay. I think both teams are going through a transition right now and coaching wise, but I think where Green Bay has a major advantage up is that they're now, working their guys into the same system offensively for, the second year in a row. And to be fair, their play caller has been there for several years now. So they have a clear advantage there. We are trying to adjust to Kellen Moore's system. I think Kellen Moore's system in particular is quite challenging to like what I've seen on tape and what I know from Jeff Hafley's like background. Like I do think that we present the kind of challenge that makes it tough for that particular system, to be quite honest. But yeah. What is the cornerback pecking order? What's up, Daryl? How you doing, buddy? From what I heard, it's not me. This is what I'm hearing reported, guys, is that it's going to be in base. It will be Darius Slay and Isaiah Rodgers, Quinyon coming in at nickel. There were some early comments saying that it might be Quinyon outside and Darius Slay in base. And then when they go to nickel, they'll kick Quinyon inside and then they'll play Isaiah Rodgers out. But from what I heard is, and they may be basing this upon the media's, the Philadelphia Eagles media's depth chart, which you can't trust that, guys, to be honest. So if that's what the basis is, it still could be that, but it does seem to indicate that it's going to be Isaiah Rodgers and Darius Slay in base. And then when they go nickel, it'll, Quinyon will bounce inside. For how long that occurs, I'm not sure. Vincent said, Coach, the sample of Dijon, do you think he's going to settle in at nickel, or he showed flashes of being excellent at safety? I thought, when I reviewed his college tape, I kind of made statements, Vincent. I thought that he, would make a pretty good strong side safety. I think he can play boundary corner for you, where you don't need to have a certain hip mobility. I think he can do that. Like there's not a certain fluidity in his hips. I know he played a lot of field corner at Iowa, but I got to be honest, while he's got a lot of straight line speed, that hip fluidity is not there for me. I will say he's super instinctive. Like even when he was playing the field, even when there was a lack of hip fluidity, the dude just took crazy good angles. Like there was like one play in particular I was watching where he got kind of shook on the route. And what he did is he basically, he knew he couldn't get his hips turned around fast enough to come over the top. So he just cut under it. And like it was just a heads up smart play from a young man. Like he's definitely smart. He's intelligent. I think he can play the nickel because I think he's tough around the line of scrimmage. And you've got to be tough around the line of scrimmage for Vic's system. So yes, I do think he can play the nickel. I think he can be a boundary corner because once again, he's got good, straight line speed. He's got a certain size profile to him. I think he can kind of mix it up there. And I think he can play a strong side safety. I think that he's the kind of guy you want locked up on like essentially a tight end or, a team slot receiver, when you're playing at depth and things like that. An international conference would be interesting. We'll see. I think they're trying to drum something up, Cameron. I don't know what it is, but they're clearly trying to drum something up internationally. Now that Kelsey is gone, I just remember Hurts saying that he's got something freaky for the Eagles offense years ago. How well do you think an offense ran solely on Hurts will do? I mean, KSF, it's to be determined. I expect there to be some hiccups. Like there's going to be some hiccups because it's a new responsibility for the quarterback. But last year, they were already devolving some of the line of scrimmage and pre-snap things over to Jalen Hurts last year. That's why I was a little shocked at kind of the way things worked out with Brian Johnson, because that's what Brian Johnson was brought in to do. Well, not brought in to do. He was already here as a quarterback coach, but that was part of the reasoning why they made him the OC, was they were trying to devolve some of the power back to Jalen Hurts. Now you saw that he did make adjustments. You saw the hot routes. They gave him some leeway to do some things. He would do the open hand turn, good indication they were going to try to take a vertical shot versus pressure, things like that. But, now you're getting another evolution. But to be fair, you got Kellen Moore as a former quarterback himself, played in the league. So, you know, they're looking to expand that offense around him. KSF, I mean, no one knows ultimately how successful to be until there's tape. I expect there to be some struggles here and there. Like, you know, it's even Peyton Manning. You look at Peyton Manning's rookie year. I mean, it was pretty rough. Like Peyton Manning did not look like Peyton Manning early. It took some time. I will say Jalen Hurts is pretty close friends apparently with Peyton Manning, and apparently they talk a lot. You know, Jalen Hurts started picking the minds of defensive coordinators over the offseason. The young man's got the will. He's got the will to be very successful. You can do a lot with a guy like that. You got a player that's got the will, you can do a whole lot, man. You just really can. The field is fantastic, World Cup worthy. Yeah, I don't really know much about it, to be honest. How confident are you in our defense? Would like your honest opinion? How confident am I? Eagles 5-7-5. I think it's going to be improved over last year just by the quality of coaching. I mean, how much improved? I don't know. Like Eagles 5-7-5. I don't think it's going to be as bad as it was on the back half of the season. Do I think this is going to be like a top 5 type defense? I don't know, man. I think there's a lot to be proven there. I think we got a lot of young players with a lot of promise, but promise has to be realized. And until there's tape and there's actual gameplay, it's all projection. Cameron said, Matt LaFleur is such a great offensive mind, though. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, those guys are in the same offensive system from LaFleur from last year. And then his system's been in place at Green Bay for a while now. So there's an advantage there. What's up, Pastor Drew? How you doing, bro? I said playing in Brazil was stupid dangerous, and only reason is for the NFL to try to make more money internationally. It's stupid for players, great for owners as usual. For what it's worth, the Corinthians pitch is a grass deso artificial mix. Huh. Interesting. I didn't know that. That is good to know. It's worth a lot, man, because I don't know much about their field. So it is good to know like some of the specifics of the actual grass, the turf it's being used, how they're doing it. Unpopular opinion, Kelly Ringo plays better than Rodgers outside. I don't know if it's unpopular. I think both of them played pretty well in the preseason. I think Isaiah Rodgers is more fluid in his hips. I think Kelly Ringo is more physical, and I think he probably would match up better against taller receivers. But I wouldn't say it was necessarily controversial. We can relive Steven. Oh, when I was yelling at the dog. She was going crazy, bro. She was going crazy. I like the NFL Europe. On Bonnet linebacker, I don't expect him to play a traditional linebacker role full-time. Thoughts? I believe Fangio sees a way he can throw curveballs with him. I was shocked, honestly, that they did not use him on ball overhang more. I mean, that's what he did in college. I thought that's what he did really well late in the year for New Orleans. I thought when they started overhanging him, I was like, wow, there's some Van Ginkel to his play. Like, I wonder if that's what Vic's seeing here. Apparently not. Either that or he's keeping it underneath, lock, tight, and key here. Maybe that's what we're not seeing. They're not going to give you everything. They had a rule where kicks 50 yards or longer were worth 4 points. Green Bay's defense is underrated. We're going to see how they do conceptually with the new scheme, Cameron. That's going to be the thing with them because this is a very different scheme than what they played previously. They're going to have to show that they match up well in terms of being able to do that. Now, what I will say is when you look at the Miami 43 under, a lot of the ends in that over the Miami 43 over defensive front, a lot of the ends are really like kind of tweener linebackers. They've been like that for years. So, I mean, you can look at it and say like, rush linebacker in a 43, you ain't got to be that big in modern NFL anymore. It's tough, man. It's a lot to like, we look at the Eagles defense and we think to ourselves, like, we probably have done some things and, we look better, but we don't know. We're going off projection. I think with Green Bay, they have Preston Smith out there, Kenny Clark, TJ Slayton, and Rashawn Gary. They're going to have to see Gary and Smith, how they play. They have Lucas Van Ness. The young man from South Carolina. What's his name, guys? Kingsley. Dang, what is his last name? An Agbar? Is that how you say it? Something like that. I don't know. You know what I'm saying, guys. Like, it'd be interesting. Carl Brooks was a guy that I was pretty high on in the draft. He's a very unique player. I'm curious of how they use Carl Brooks. I think I did a breakdown on Carl Brooks a couple of years ago, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I think I definitely did a breakdown on him a couple of years ago. I think I might still have a video up with him. If not, I'll put it back up for everybody. But he was the young man from Bowling Green, very much a tweener, has a really interesting body style, played end, but is built like a defensive tackle. Like he's curious. He's an interesting guy, right? I mean, Carl Brooks is a really interesting guy for them. Linebackers, they got McDuffie, they got Quay Walker. I don't know. I would assume they got Eric Wilson listed as starting. That would be very favorable for us because he's not good. But Edgerrin Cooper, I would think, if he doesn't start week 1, he's going to be starting pretty soon. Jair Alexander's a good player. I'm not going to throw shade at him. I don't like that matchup for them if it's 1-on-1 versus AJ. Jair Alexander might be a short guy, but he does have really long arms. He's built like me to where I have longer arms for my height. It's kind of weird like that. Eric Stokes, former Georgia player. We all were pretty high on him a couple of years ago when he came out. They got Xavier McKinney and Javon Bullard at safety. That's going to be an interesting combo. You're going to be playing a lot of single high. They want to be able to rotate. So that, they don't want to say like one guy's going to be the free, one guy's going to be the strong. They want to be able to rotate and not use those terms. But yeah, sorry, man. I just came right noticed some of your comments here, but we'll see. We'll see how they do, Cameron. It's tough to say, It's tough to say because it's a new system. Do you think Dotson can execute with limited team time in week 1? It's an excellent question, Mike. I mean, it's hard to say. It's really, really hard to say. Like, that's tough. Yeah. It's a tough assignment, Mike. It's a really, really tough assignment. Justin says you're sleeping on Dobbs. He will be a top 10 in 2 years. No, he won't. No, he won't. He's not a top 10 player, man. He's a good player. I said he was a good player. I said they got 4 guys who can really play. None of those dudes are top 10. They're not even close. I agree with Gate. Lane and Mulata are the 2 tackles that play the most on an island without help. So that skews the numbers. And exactly, Easy. That's like, I get why they're ranking them that way, but like, I still feel like versus pressure, like we got things to fix. like Kelsey was taking some crap. And I think I love Kelsey, man. I'm never going to be disrespectful towards Kelsey just because I know what that guy means. I know how good of a player that dude is. It's probably a Hall of Famer. I thought Kelsey was pretty bad adjusting to pressure last year. I can't lie, man. I think Kellen's quick game will make our numbers better. You're probably right. Yeah, I can see that easy. T-Rex said, why are the coaches so high on Dean and why won't they move Smith to linebacker because he is not an edge? I think they see the get off ability of Nolan Smith, that initial quickness, that burst is problematic. Even though he's not a really refined pass rusher in terms of the hand use and things like that, T-Rex, like that speed is hard to deal with and it can get you. So while I do agree that they should be more creative in the way that they use Nolan Smith and he should be used, in different ways over different gaps, not just overhanged on the outside all the time to use that speed and use that advantage. We'll see. I mean, we haven't seen a single game with Vic coaching him yet in terms of the regular season. I don't know that they're like, I think the front office is high on Nakobe Dean because I think Nakobe Dean is very instinctual at linebacker. I think he's a really instinctual player. I think they see that there is a ceiling to him that could be quite impressive if you can get him there. With that said, you're always going to have some concerns about injuries. He was able to fight through and play through injuries at Georgia, but he still sustained them. They just didn't really take him off the field that often. In Philadelphia, he had his rookie year to where, just wasn't a lot of use, for that third guy. I mean, Kaiser White and, TJ Edwards did just a really solid job his rookie year. Probably should have played Nakobe a little more so he wasn't so green coming into the next year where he was going to be a starter. But, the injuries kind of hampered him last year. I mean, the injuries, they crept on him on the foot. And I don't know how, when you're dealing with a foot injury at linebacker, it's really hard to evaluate a T-Rex. Like it makes it difficult to evaluate the guy. I do think that there were some footwork issues I saw a couple times in coverage, but I also think our linebackers are better in coverage than people give them credit for. I think they're tasked with incredibly tough assignments in coverage. I think that we expect our linebackers underneath Gannon and what we saw from Desai, we expected them to cover a lot of ground in coverage. We really did. I mean, if you look at the underneath, you got 6 slots. So if you're playing quarters a lot and you're committing a lot of bodies to quarters coverage, you're asking that's dividing up the field vertically. You're preventing big plays, no doubt about it. But you're asking your linebackers to cover a lot of ground underneath. It's a lot of ground to be covered. You got 6 different spots that got to be covered. You got the outside flats. You got that, that curl area. From the curl, you got the hook, and you got your opposite hook. You got your opposite curl, and you got your opposite flats. It's a lot of ground to cover. When you're only giving 3 guys to cover that, it's going to be a problem. It's problematic sometimes. And I know that they do things to where they, like with Vic and even with Gannon, they did it from time to time. Even, with Desai, we saw it from time to time. There was definitely some moments where you'll see them do those, they call it the creeper concept. We always refer to it as leakers when I played, but, you drop a defensive tackle like they do in Green Bay. That's the Patine thing. He runs that cover 3 skate concept. Or like, with the Philadelphia Eagles and what we did here, you have that creeper concept where you drop an end and that gives you more bodies to cover that flat area, and you have less ground for the linebackers to cover. I do think that's part of the problem we saw in coverage, man. I do think that that's one of the downsides to playing that. And that's why you see Vic is evolving his defense to be less quarters. You might give some pre-snap quarters look to you. But it's less quarters into like cover 6 concepts and more disguising between quarters to cover 3 to cover 9. Cover 3 and cover 9 just has to do with the way that you bring your safety down. Are you going weak side or strong side with the safety? You rotate down, and then, your cover 6. So then basically what you're doing is you're allocating a little bit more bodies to the underneath area. We see there, we'll have to see how it works out, T-Rex, but we do see that there's more of an effort to get more bodies down there. 1 under INTs for Dejean. 3 over under. My bad, Fort. 3. Ah, man, that's tough. That's tough because I don't know how much he's going to play. You got to know how much he's going to play, but that's a tough one. I don't know. That's a tough one because I just don't know how much he's going to play. Why didn't Fangio try Rodgers as a nickel when he has more experience and better body type? Does he prefer bigger guys there? Slay, Mitchell outside with Rodgers inside made more sense. I don't know. I don't know if that was a more. I can't explain it easy. He did have experience in college. You're right, playing some nickel. Didn't really play nickel too much in the league, to be quite honest. He's primarily been a field corner, not a boundary corner, which is a little problematic, to be quite honest. I don't know. I don't have a real answer for you there, Easy. I think you saw what a lot of us saw, and I thought the same thing originally. I thought that they would probably say, look, he's got the movement ability. He's got the bodies. He's a guy that you can play outside, inside, outside, probably, gives you some looks there. I don't know if it's more about the eyes and the communication. I don't know if that's the side of things that we just don't know without being present at practice. Easy. I don't know if they just trust Quinion and those guys more with the communication and their eyes and zone coverage. It's possible that's what's going on. Vic didn't seem to say that. I heard Rodgers didn't want to play nickel. Possible. I don't know. I have no clue, guys. It's hard to say. Yeah, he didn't play nickel because exactly, Kenneth. That's true. What's up, James? How you doing, buddy? What's up, Joe? How are you, man? Green Bay's O-line isn't great. I agree with that, actually. Yeah, I think they got some issues. They're rated very highly in pass blocking, but I think some of that has to do with the scheme and and some of it has to do with Jordan Love, to be quite honest. And I think that it's weird because I think run blocking they're great at really lowly, and I think they're better than they're graded, but I don't think they're particularly good at either thing, to be quite honest. I agree with you. I think they got one guy on that line that's a dog. He's really good, which is their left guard. What linebacker you think will lead the defense in tackles? Ooh. I mean, if Devin White remains the mic and has the green dot of play calling, and he's going to, that means he's probably going to be out there on the most amount of downs. So I think Devin White's probably the safe bet there, but it's interesting because I don't know how it's going to shake out as the season goes on. He did play some slot, but not much. Either way, he has more experience there than Mitchell. Jurgen and Jalen with split line protections, according to Sirianni. Roger said he doesn't play slot. Got to get the likes up. Hit that like button. Like JC will be hitting love. Appreciate that. It's funny. Neither did Mitchell. Yeah. With salary going up, people have realized that there is an international market. The NBA is making a ton of money. It's very smart to get more money and keep the players happy. Yeah, I don't know, man. That sucks if you're a season ticket holder, man. That kind of sucks a little bit because you just lost a home game. Kelsey's a Hall of Famer, but he definitely wasn't the player he was only the year before. I believe he left at the correct time because he was only going to get worse. He went out at a very high level. Yeah. I mean, I definitely think there was a reduction in a lot of guys' play last year, no doubt about it. The one guy I thought, I thought still had some fuel left in the tank was Fletch. And Fletch was like, "Nah, I'm done, bro." Fletch was like, "I'm over, bro. I'm not going to keep doing this." I think this will be the best defense since 2017. You're not going to be able to cover the Green Bay Packers wide receivers. Your cornerbacks stink. I think you're confusing us for your team where you guys got lit up. Deline, are you talking from experience with the Cowboys getting smoked by Green Bay in the playoffs, asking for a friend? BVS might be one of the most athletic linebackers in the entire league in coverage, run, and as a blitzer. If he keeps improving his awareness, he can compete as a starter next year. Green Bay Packers are going to pass it right in the middle because that's where your weakness is. It's funny you said I know nothing about football while simultaneously, Darlene, not understanding how Vic plays his coverages anymore, and the fact that he's rotating into more cover 3, cover 9 concepts, which, by the way, closes off the middle of the field. But, speaking from someone who, only coached it, only played it, only scouted it, What's up, Gabe? What's going on, Eagles Playbook? How you doing, buddy? All right, guys, we've been going for an hour and 20-some minutes. You guys kept me over the time I normally like to stay. All right, guys, I'm going to get ready to jump off here. We will be back tomorrow at 10:05-ish, somewhere in that area, guys. Again, we're going to keep breaking stuff down. We covered the offense yesterday. If you guys missed that video, I did talk about Green Bay's offense for you guys. We covered their defense today. Look, we'll be back tomorrow, guys. I got to think about what we're going to do about the topic. I kind of want to get into our, we've already scouted Green Bay at this point. I kind of want to get into kind of scouting our own selves here and talking a little bit about what we may expect. I mean, it's going to be tough, guys. We got 2 new coordinators. So, but, talk a little bit about what we may or may not see. So, yeah, it'd be interesting, guys. All right, y'all. I appreciate y'all so much. I will see y'all tomorrow. Peace. I'm out of here, guys. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to catch a few of you guys. One of the guys was a Pro Bowler, his quarterback spot. The other is a rookie. Stay safe, y'all. Love you guys. God bless. See you tomorrow. All right, guys. I appreciate y'all.